Good evening and welcome to this August 24th meeting of the New Albany Plain Local Schools Board of Education. Call the meeting to order and request a roll call, please.
Here.
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 Vice President Harrell.
Here.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America,
to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members have had the chance to review the minutes from our July 9th and July 31st meetings. If without any changes, could I request a motion to approve those board minutes?
Hey guys, there's a ton of echo. Can we all mute?
Yeah.
Yours should be muted. Mine is muted right now. I'm still getting echo. You want it out? Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. And a second. Okay, Ms. Kalinowski. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Yes. Now to tonight's agenda. I believe we do have additions to the agenda tonight, Mr. Sawyers.
Correct, President McClellan. We have an addendum agenda this evening.
Okay, with that addendum agenda, could I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Darrow, in a second.
Second.
Mr. Newmoff, roll call, please.
Vice President Harrell?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
President McClellan?
Yes. Communications to the board, Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President McClellan, members of the Board of Education. We're going to begin this evening with a presentation from Dr. Hamilton, Director of Secondary Education, and Mr. Kramer is our high school principal, related to graduation seals and requirements, specifically with recommendations for the 2020-21 school year in accordance with Ohio Revised Code and the graduation rules established by the Ohio Department of Education. With that, we'd like to welcome Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Kramer. Mrs. Jenkins will bring up the presentation in just a moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyers. President McClellan, members of the Board of Education. We need to wait for the presentation to come up, but here it comes. Basically, we're going to, you can go ahead to the next slide. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So we're going to talk about the revised policy of 5460 tonight. And there's a new policy 5460.02 that we will also provide information about. And we'll talk about how the revised policy has changed high school graduation requirements and the process that we use for developing our seals, our local seals, and then we'll talk about the proposed local seals as well that we were going to talk about back in March. So it's been long awaited here. But anyway, we'll be, those are the things we'll be presenting. So Becky, if you could go on to the next slide. So as far as the revised, the major revisions of the revised graduation requirements for policy 5460, we added the Ohio Revised Code for using computer science as an option to Algebra 2, and also it can be used as a science. So now all students need a credit of Algebra 2 or equivalent, or they may use a credit of advanced computer science to accomplish the Algebra 2 credit. And then in mathematics. And then also in science, they will be able to use computer science, advanced credit in computer science. Also in science, we identified that we would need 1 credit of advanced, that they would need 1 credit of physical science, 1 credit of life science, 1 credit of advanced study, and 1 or more of chemistry, physics, other physical science, advanced biology, or other life science, physical geology, or other earth or space science, and then computer science. So we just added language to the science requirements. Social studies also changed a little bit. The State Department added a half credit in world history and civilizations, and we added that to our requirements. So now we need a half credit of American history, half credit of American government, and a half credit of world history and civilizations for a total, you need a total of 4 credits in social studies still, but the world civilizations has been added, world history and civilizations has been added. You'll see all of this in just a minute in another slide. We also added 1 credit in fine arts at the high school. In the past, it was 2 semesters of fine arts. One of those, 1 semester could be at the middle school. It was really hard to keep track of that. And then at the high school, they needed a half credit, and most of our credits were full credits. So it was very difficult for students to obtain that as well. So we just made it 1 credit in fine arts at the high school, and that won't be required until the class of 2022, so that we can allow students to finish out what they started. Then we also deleted a half credit in business tech, because that is also included as one of our elective credits. So we didn't really need that anymore. So we added, so we have 3 elective credits, which could include any combination of a world language, computer coding, business, technology, career, technical education, and any consumer sciences or additional English language arts, math, science, social studies, or fine arts courses not otherwise required for graduation. Then we also added language regarding the 3 pathways for the class of 21 and 22, just to clarify, which we'll go over later on in this presentation. And then we also added new requirements for the class of 2023 and beyond, which will now be the new requirements for all graduating classes 2023 and beyond. So those are the kind of the highlights of the major revisions. Again, we'll go over some of these more specifically in a little bit. As far as the policy, the new policy 5460.02, students at risk of not qualifying for a high school diploma. Basically, what we're trying to do there is to ensure that all students receive a high school diploma. And so we are going to, and this is again required by ODE, we're going to develop a high school graduation plan for all students. We also are we've established criteria to identify students at risk of not graduating so that we know who those students are. We were also identified interventions and supports to assist students in meeting the graduation requirements. And this plan will be developed. It will be for grades 9 through 12, and it will be updated annually with parent notification and participation. So the whole point of this, again, is to ensure that all students make sure that they all qualify for a high school diploma. This stays in effect until they actually get their diploma. Now, here's what I was talking about in terms of covering the basics. All graduating classes must earn the following credits, a total of 21 credits, 4 credits in math, 4 credits in ELA, 4 credits in social studies, with the changes that I mentioned already, 3 credits in science, 0.5 credit in health, 0.5 credit in physical education, 1 credit in fine arts, 1 credit in senior seminar, and 3 credits in electives, for a total of 21 credits. So that's what all students must earn in order to earn a diploma and to graduate. And that's what those are the same, you know, we have always had 21 credits. So that part really didn't change. Then for the classes of 21 and 22, it's a little bit different here. They will be under the 3 original pathways for students to graduate. which includes the 18 credits on 7 end of course exams. That's one way to accomplish it. This is for, again, the class 21, 22, or industry credential and workforce readiness. You would need to have 12 points in credentialing, in a credentialing program. And then you could also have 14 or higher on the ACT work keys test. So that's another way to earn that. Then a third way to earn it is college and career readiness assessment. So you'd have to have a remediation free score on the ACT and or SAT. Remediation scores for ACT are 22 or higher in ELA, 22 or higher in math. Then on the SAT, it's 480 or higher in ELA and 530 or higher in math. So those are for that's the requirements for the classes of 21 and 22. Ken's now going to take us through the class of 20, 23 and beyond.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Good evening, Superintendent Sawyers, President McClellan, and the rest of the school board. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the class of 2023 and beyond graduation requirements, as well as present the 3 local seals that we've defined collaboratively. So first, at a very high level, class of 2023, which is our current 10th grade or incoming 10th grade class, have to complete the basics, so those 21 credits. They need to demonstrate competency, which is very similar to the testing requirement for the class of 21 and 22. And they have a third additional thing that they need to complete, which is to demonstrate readiness by earning 2 state graduation seals. So first, showing competency. If we can move to the next slide. Showing competency simply is testing requirements. So our end of course exams for the class of 2023 and beyond, currently students will attempt end of course exams in 6 areas: English 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Biology, US History, and US Government. We're specifically looking at a score of 684 or higher on the ELA 2 or Algebra 1 assessment. So students are taking these end of course exams when they attempt the course. So Algebra 1 could be taken in middle school or in 9th grade, and ELA 2 would be taken during the spring of their sophomore year. Following the spring of the sophomore year, students could have up to 5 additional attempts to earn this 684 score, which is close to the equivalent of a 2 on a scale of 5. So if students earn a 684 or higher, they automatically complete showing competency towards graduation, and we can move on to step 3. If students are unable to do that after 5 attempts, they can do this in 3 alternative ways. So first is earning college credit in English or math through our CCP program. Students can complete up to 2 career-focused activities. Those are things such as WebEx exams, completing 3 of those in a specific career pathway, earning a 12-point industry credential, which is also an alternative for students in the class of 21 or 22. Students can also complete a pre-apprenticeship program, and there's a couple other ways that students can demonstrate career-focused activities. The third and final option is students can qualify and show evidence of enlistment into the military. So students must complete one of the 4 things in order to show competency towards graduation and move on to step 3. Step 3 is showing readiness. And so this is what is unique to the class of 2023 and beyond. And it is a new graduation requirement. So there's a total of 12 graduation seals. 9 seals are state defined and 3 are locally defined seals. Students must earn at least 2 of these seals. They can earn 2 state seals, or they can choose to earn 1 state seal and 1 local seal. State seals are earned through various different things, such as coursework completed. So you can see honors diploma is one option that students can earn. They would earn that through the courses that they're attempting. Students can earn seals by their end of course exams. So for example, scoring a 3 or higher on your American history or American government assessment qualifies you for the citizenship seal. If you score a 3 or higher in biology, it earns the science seal. We look at ACT or SAT results. That would earn you the college ready seal with a qualifying score. And also you can see military enlistment is an option for a state seal, a state defined seal that students can earn. So that moves us to our 3 locally defined seals. And those seals are the community service, fine and performing arts, and student engagement seal. And so for some perspective and understanding of what these local seals and the purpose of them are, we were really looking at what students would be qualifying for local seals. So if you don't naturally earn 2 graduation seals defined by the state, what type of student is that? And really we're looking at, it's a student that's potentially at risk of not graduating. So heading into their senior year after multiple attempts at both SAT, ACT, after much coursework is completed, and as well as many times attempting the end of course exams, they still haven't earned 2 graduation seals. They would be targeting one of these local seals. And so with that light is how we approached defining our local seals. And again, it's community service, fine and performing arts, and student engagement. So we used a very collaborative process in order to develop these local seals. We had a local committee made up of Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Mamias, myself, Mrs. Warren, Mrs. Horning, which is a school counselor at the high school, Mr. Falk, who's our department head over our performing arts department, and Mrs. Cerny, who's an intervention specialist, to kind of look at all the information and guidance that was coming out from both ODE and Neola and decide what's best for New Albany High School. We worked with area schools in Worthington, Westerville, Upper Arlington, Dublin, Gahanna, and Olentangy. We met 2 different times in Worthington discussing what our thoughts are, where we landed with our local committee, just bouncing ideas off of each other. And we knew we wanted to land in a similar location in all of our school districts. And finally, the ESC supported us through their student success meeting, having 2 meetings specifically on the development of your local seals. And so through that collaborative process, this is where we landed on our community service seal, or on all 3, but specifically our community service seal. Students must complete 60 hours of community service, including 25 hours for graduation. So why did we land on 60? One of the biggest things we were looking at is a student that's at risk of graduating would be walking into their senior year. What's a realistic number of hours that they could earn on top of potentially taking additional coursework because they could be behind in earning their 21 credits. And so we threw around numbers like 120 or 30 or 40, and ultimately we landed at 60 hours of community service, which includes the 25 hours that we require for all students to graduate from New Albany High School. These hours must be completed with an approved charitable nonprofit organization. They have to be pre-approved through our district community service liaison. And obviously we want these to be meaningful hours. So part of this is upon completion, students would submit a written reflection, and we want it to benefit both them. So we see some growth in them as well as benefiting the New Albany community. The second local seal is our fine and performing arts seal. And this is what Mr. Falk was very instrumental in the defining of what this actually means. So obviously we have those students that are naturally in our fine and performing arts and complete 4 years of the play or 4 years of marching band. And this is not the type of student that we are targeting with this fine and performing arts seal. We're looking at a student that is, again, potentially at risk of not graduating and having something that they can participate in order to earn a seal locally. So maybe they're not involved in the school. This is an opportunity for them to be involved. So part of this is earning 2 credits of any visual or performing arts course, but we didn't want to just settle on just 2 completed courses. We also would like to present the opportunity for students to substitute one of those courses for an experience. And that experience can come in the form of a full season of the play or a full season of the musical or completing a year in the marching band. And so students would be able to substitute one of those experiences for a course during the school day. So that is our fine and performing arts seal. And last, we have our student engagement seal. And again, in the light of who the student would be that would be going for a student engagement seal, who would qualify for this, we're looking at a student that we want to be engaged in our school. And so we landed on completing 2 of the following: completion of 1 sports season, completion of 1 performance or production, completion of 30 hours of club participation. And obviously all of these hours would be verified through an advisor, a club coach, a teacher for verification of completion. And yes, you will see that there is some overlap between our 3 local seals, but students can only earn 1 local seal. So there isn't a double dip here between the fine and performing arts seal, and the student engagement seal. Students are restricted to only earning one of those seals. So overall, again, there are 12 graduation seals. Students must earn 2 of these seals. They can earn 2 of the 9 state-defined seals, or 1 of the state-defined and 1 of these local seals. And upon completion of that, students will, in the class of 2023 and beyond, have completed all 3 steps required by the state to qualify for graduation. So I will hand it back to Dr. Hamilton, and I think we're going to open it up for any questions or comments.
If I could just, I forgot to mention on the graduation requirements that we still are requiring the 25 hours of service learning, and there's also the financial literacy requirement too. So I just forgot to mention those down at the bottom of that one slide. So yes, what questions or comments do you have?
Could I just have a clarification, Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Kramer? These requirements take effect when?
They will take effect with the current class, the 21 class of 21.
So so with the class of 21, if we have students who for whatever reason have not yet completed a fine arts credit, and we already have their schedule for the year, what do they do?
Oh, I mentioned that for the fine arts credit specifically, that doesn't go into effect.
That's
until
2022.
Until the class of 2022.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought you said, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. So
Sorry,
okay.
yeah, yes, that's the one requirement that will not take effect yet, because we do want to allow students to complete their plan.
Okay, so we may have some juniors that are going to go into their senior year and they're going to have to take a fine arts course because they haven't taken it yet.
That could happen, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, as of right now, we do require a half of credit. And so students in a lot of ways are earning a half a credit in the middle school and a half a credit at the high school. And then we're combining that to equal 1 now. Right. We did run the numbers. It's a very small number that would require an additional half credit or semester class of fine art going into their junior year.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So it's clear that you put quite a bit of thought into this, which is not surprising given that the team puts a lot of thought into everything you do. But how would you answer families and other members of the community who might think that we're making it too easy to graduate, that there's not enough rigor in this process?
Mr. Kramer, you want to start with that, and then I can finish?
Yeah, I think I understand why that might be a view of some. I guess I'd like to make sure that I clarify that this, specifically the graduation seals, is an additional step that prior graduating classes have not had to complete. So current graduation class is 21 credits and earning end of course exam 18 points. And then if you don't earn that, we find alternatives, which are embedded in the alternatives for the class of 2023 and beyond. I think part of the goal of the seals is having targets for students on specific things they want to aim at or get very good at or highlight on their diploma. So a piece of this is actually putting the seal on the student's diploma as an additional recognition. And we have students earn these all the time. So you can see things like our honors diploma. We had 52% of our students in the class of 2020 earn an honors diploma. So that's instantly 52% potentially of our graduating class earning one of those seals. So it's just recognizing that in a different way. I don't think they're intended to be barriers to graduation. And that was one of the things we definitely wanted to make them rigorous, our local seals. And I think that we did set a bar, but I think in the light of the type of student that is going to need to achieve one of those is where we kept falling back to what's best for our kids, what kids are actually going to earn this or need it for that recognition and qualification for graduation. And that's kind of where we landed with our local seals. But I don't think they're meant to be a barrier to graduation necessarily with the implementation for the class of 2023.
And also remember that seals are just one part of the new graduation requirements. There's also, you have to first of all get the 21 credits, of course, cover the basics. Then you have to show competency, as Mr. Kramer indicated. You have to get a 684 on the ELA and Algebra 1 test, or take the CCP courses, or the career focused activities, or enlist in the military. So you have to show competency first, and then demonstrate readiness through the seals, the accomplishment of the seals. So it's kind of an added thing. So while, you know, the local seals may, I mean, I think I agree with Mr. Kramer. I think they're still certainly rigorous. And so I don't think anything is not rigorous here, really. You still have to complete the requirements.
Thank you.
When do you see students achieving these seals? Is it mostly senior year?
No, they'll be completed throughout the completion of end of course exams. Mainly completion of coursework sets up for the majority of the state exams. Our original numbers, and again, this is going to be, so we're doing this work last November, last December. We had close to 93% earning their 2 seals for the class of 2020 without doing any additional steps, but completing coursework and taking end of course exams. We didn't even take a look at ACT and SAT results, which could qualify you for the college readiness seal. So I feel very confident that our students are going to be able to earn these seals. We're talking about a very small portion, maybe 5% or less, that would even need one of these local seals to be eligible for graduation.
Thank you.
And also remember the classes of 21 and 22 may also, this is another option for them as well. They may also meet the new requirements in order to graduate, as well as the 3 pathways that we talked about on the other slide. Any other
questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President McClellan. Thank you, Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Kramer. We're going to continue this evening. Just a second. With continued information regarding the 2020-21 school year and a responsible restart based upon all the information that's been available to us in the course of the last 3 weeks, as things continue to change throughout the state of Ohio and/or with our local data. So I'm going to start this evening by grounding us in our statement of purpose as always, just to try to remember that this is the foundation for all the conversations that are taking place to put students first across our school campus and to create a culture of accountability that achieves the best academic and developmental outcomes for each student in our school district. I was having earphone technical difficulties, so I had to fix it. I want to remind our community and our family and really everyone that this is still an opportunity to continuously adjust and adapt. And I'm going to talk about the families that specifically elected. At the last board meeting, I called it the roller coaster ride, and parents have actually latched onto that and seen me many times throughout the community and had conversations with me that they look forward to being in a seat on the roller coaster ride. And they specifically signed up for that opportunity to provide kids the opportunity to be in person, as well as to recognize the opportunity for our families to opt out to go 100% to the virtual learning program within our school district. But the conditions that basically contribute to the roller coaster ride are really data centric. And we on a weekly basis are getting data from Franklin County Public Health and Columbus Public Health in cooperation with the Ohio Department of Health to talk specifically with our COVID-19 task force and other local authorities related to the health world, the scientific community, or the governmental officials, including board council, to talk about all the intricacies associated to the roller coaster ride. So at the end of the day, our goal remains the same: safely returning students and staff to the 2020-21 school year, regardless if you are 100% at home participating in the virtual learning program and/or electing to take the roller coaster ride to come to our school district, we're going to create safe learning opportunities for you on our school campus or at home because you're still part of our New Albany family. So I pulled some data set. This is actually from the week of August 8th through August 15th that basically shows you the type of information I receive every Tuesday morning from our data calls with Franklin County Public Health and Columbus Public Health. That really in summary fashion shows you in August for ages 0 through 19, there's 49 current count cases in Franklin County specifically for students between the ages of 0 and 19 years of age. Then in the bottom right-hand corner, I pulled the zip code data just so that you can see it. These are as of August 24th. So this is as of today, the information I have access to that I can find on the different websites. The dominant zip codes that serve our school district are 43054. There's 120 case counts total of all ages, 43081, 389, and 43230, 391. And again, that's of all ages, not just 0 through 19. 0 through 19 in August to date is 49 cases across the entire county, not specifically within our school district. So tonight we unveil really an opportunity for community, and it's really our entire community coming together to unite to try to keep everyone safe at school. And last week during the governor's press conference, he introduced a new campaign for mask up, back up, and wash up. So we've adjusted that and had some fun with it from a graphic standpoint within our school district to try to help Eddie the Eagle understand what he has to do every single day within our school district to allow our kids to be on our school campus and be successful at school. So we start with the mask up. Specifically, every student on our school campus and or every faculty or staff member will be required to wear a face mask with limited exception. Back up is 3 to 6 feet. 6 feet's ideal in the perfect world. But as we basically bring kids back to campus and eventually have an all-in environment, 3 feet becomes our reality because it is impossible to have all students on campus, even with the 3,500 estimated number that I will share with you tonight, to be 6 feet apart. The best we can do is 3 feet, chair to chair for students in between desks, and that's really the environment that we hope to create that will be safe for students to be able to come back. And then lastly is wash up. And again, it goes back to hand hygiene. And everything that's being said, both by the CDC as well as Franklin County Public Health, Columbus Public Health, New York Fire Department Health about the importance of hand hygiene. We need to routinely and frequently wash hands. Soap and water are preferred. When it's not available, the solution becomes hand sanitizer. So we've asked the City of New Albany and Plain Township to partner specifically with us as a learning community to try to keep this campaign going throughout our greater New Albany community. And the reason that's important from my perspective is coming up very quickly. So some of you may recall when we talked about the data related to the 4th of July, that there were some spikes specifically in the data because of behavior that existed over the 4th of July weekend. Labor Day is right around the corner. So I have to implore our entire learning community to remember that our goal is to open and keep schools open safely. To do that, we have to do our part as a community to mask up, back up, and wash up. And I would ask you, because it's one of the most frequent things that's talked about during the governor's press conference that has significant impact to data, weddings and barbecues. So because Labor Day is coming, I know there could be many backyard barbecues that get planned within our New Albany community. I would ask you to rethink those if you have school-age children, because our goal is to keep schools open and choose to participate perhaps differently. So again, it's a community conversation that I'm asking to take place to try to talk about what we have to do collectively together to unite, to mask up, back up, and wash up to protect the safety and welfare of our students, our faculty, our staff, our parents, and really the community at large. We've actually created an Eagle Health and Safety Compact, and this is actually going to go out electronically to all of our families in our school district as well as our staff. We're asking everyone, because we're truly in this together and we are stronger together, to unite and own your R on a daily basis as part of our R factor for your response of what you're going to do to help combat COVID-19 in the New Albany Plain Local School District. So first, we're asking you to mask up. You'll commit to wearing an approved face mask or covering as required by the school district, as well as the executive order from the Ohio Department of Health. Back up to the best of your ability, maintain 3 to 6 feet of social distance whenever possible on our school campus. Wash up, again, routinely and frequently, regularly wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. And when that's not available, use hand sanitizer. And then before you come to school, or for the adults that work in our school district, before you come to work, we ask you to please complete daily health and symptoms checks. Specifically, that you do not have one or more of the following symptoms, which are currently the drivers that are basically demonstrating, according to our task force, symptoms of COVID-19. You have a new cough, you have difficulty breathing, you have loss of taste or smell, or a fever greater than 100 degrees. If those things happen, you should stay home. If you have two or more of the following low-risk symptoms, you should also stay home until you consult your medical advisor. Congestion and runny nose, diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, sore throat, headache, or muscle weakness and fatigue. Again, two or more of those, and we ask that you stay home. You will not come to school or work feeling ill. Your family will agree to contact the teacher or the supervisor, or if you're an employee on our school campus, immediately should you feel unwell. If you're a student or a parent or guardian, will report your absence to school. If you're an employee, report your absence to work promptly and share symptoms or information to help protect others on our school campus. There are specific requirements for confidentiality, but we are asking for families to please consider giving us that information so we can help protect the safety and welfare of others on the school campus to the greatest extent possible. You'll follow the testing, contact tracing, and quarantine protocols and requirements specifically established by health officials. And that in addition to those protocols at school or at work, you'll also do that at home and in the greater community at large. And we're asking very simplistically to mask up, back up, and wash up, because those are the three dominant things that have to happen specifically to keep our schools open and protect the safety and welfare of everyone involved. Avoid crowded areas and limit your social gatherings. Again, Labor Day is coming. 4th of July data was not good. We would ask that the Labor Day data be positive and everyone mask up, back up, and wash up, and avoid significant social gatherings if possible. And again, follow the state travel advisories. And I know there were new CDC recommendations that came out about an hour ago that'll parallel what the state of Ohio is currently doing. And again, we're ending with basically saying you're part of the Eagle family. So we need you to act with Eagle pride and ultimately help keep everyone on our school campus safe every single day so we can keep our schools open. Tonight, we're sharing updates specifically related to enrollment. So our enrollment within our school district currently for in-person is 3,532 students as of this morning. Our virtual learning program enrollment is 1,523 students, and again, pre-K through 12. So if you're one of our in-person students, you're on the roller coaster ride to go from in-person to hybrid and or to an e-learning environment if state ordered. And then our VLP students are 100% online every single school day for at least the first semester. We are publishing this to families as part of the back to school packets, that there's a school morning checklist of what you should specifically remember to bring if you're coming to in-person school on the campus, and what also you're supposed to do and the symptoms that you're supposed to check for. So this will be a graphic that's provided to families that they actually can print out at home, put on the refrigerator to help you remember what you're supposed to do every single morning. But the health and symptoms check is critical before your student would leave the home to travel on the bus or to enter your vehicle to be dropped off specifically at school. And it also applies to our employees before they walk out the door to come to school for work. The school day. So there are some changes coming for 2020-21 based upon the health requirements and safety guidelines that are being administered within the school district. The first is in relationship at the elementary level for students enrolled in grades K through 5 that participated in the past in the Breakfast Club program. For at least the first semester of 2020-21, there will be no Breakfast Club. We do have before and after school tuition-based childcare available through the Eagle's Nest. There's limited enrollment still available in Eagle's Nest because we started advertising it in the middle of August, middle of July. For the new school year. So it was up before August 1st, but we do have some spaces still available for the K through 5. So if you are a parent in the district that has historically participated in the 45-minute breakfast program for breakfast and childcare before school, that is not available for the first semester of 2020-21. The only option we can offer you is a tuition-based childcare program through the Eagle's Nest prior to the student day. That is being done due to restrictions related to space and social distancing for the childcare age students that are necessary before the beginning of an after-school care program. So we will not have breakfast club. Safety protocols specifically being enacted for 2020-21. We've talked a lot about masks across our school campus. They are required for all students in grades K through 12, dominantly a lot of the time, and I'll talk about the exception in just a minute. There's no student access to lockers for at least the first semester. We do not have shared school supplies. Elementary students must have their own school supplies. We will not have community share. The water fountains, in accordance with recommendations from Franklin County Public Health, have been disabled because they are shareable, and it's impossible to clean them in between every student that potentially could use the water fountain, so they will be turned off. Families are asked to send water with their child every single day to the school campus. Water will also be available during lunch and/or breakfast for purchase in the cafeterias. Our playgrounds will follow the new rules and expectations for social distancing, hand washing, and interactive play that I'll talk about in just a little bit. Library materials will be removed from circulation for 72 hours after return in accordance with recommendations from health officials. The physical guides related to classrooms, there's tape, decals, and signs that'll be used to enforce or recommend social distancing, one-way hallways, one-way stairwells, floor markings for where the desk placement is in a classroom, et cetera, et cetera. There will be sick and well clinics that are specifically established at each building in accordance with recommendations from a health officials. So that daily student needs actually that would participate, for example, medication distribution would happen in a well clinic, and students that are suspected to perhaps become ill, unknown as to whether or not it is or is not related to COVID, will have a sick clinic access specifically for them. Students will be discouraged from loitering and congregating in hallways. We've been strongly recommended to let students traverse through hallways. That is permissible in accordance with guidelines from Franklin County Public Health. The goal is that students travel through hallways in 3 to 4 minutes. The rule of thumb to keep in your mind as I explain this information tonight specifically related to the health requirements is that a person becomes exposed to COVID-19 if a person is found to be positive and you had direct contact with that individual for 10 to 15 consecutive minutes. So 3 to 4 minutes of hallway passage does not mean that you have been exposed. You have to be with the person for a duration of up to 15 minutes. Classroom mask breaks will be permissible. They will be teacher directed. They will be for approximately 5 minutes in time, specifically used for water, drinks, or snack breaks. And then everyone ultimately must be stationary in the room. So if there are any students moving, if the teacher is moving, mask must be on. When the teacher gives permission for a student to take a mask break, the entire mask break happens in the entire classroom because everyone is seated. In the cafeteria, students will be required to wear their masks walking into the cafeteria when they are waiting in the lunch line, walking to their tables that will have assigned seats at assigned tables in a specific zone, and when they're throwing away their trash. They can remove their mask when they are actually eating their lunch. That is all in accordance with the recommendations of the health department. Hygiene protocols beyond the mask. Kids must wear a mask and bring a mask to school every day. We're actually recommending to families that students do have access to the mask that they wear in the morning, but you should also put an extra mask in their backpack in a Ziploc bag with their name on it. So we're asking them to wear a mask and bring a mask. The school district does have a significant supply of PPE that we've secured through grants or other donations to the school district. We do have adult-sized masks that will become available specifically for middle school and high school students. And we have child-sized masks for the elementary students when it's necessary. They are disposable. But if for some reason the student has worn a mask and they bring a mask and both get soiled, there will be a backup plan within our school district to provide that to students. Hand washing routines will be incorporated throughout the day as in addition to hand sanitizer stations. We have high touch frequency cleaning that's been scheduled with the custodial staff. Our offices have sneeze guards and partitions that have been installed in accordance with recommendations from the health department. Restrooms will be frequently cleaned with specific disinfectants that are COVID approved. School supply sharing I talked about is prohibited. We will not share food or drink during lunch. Students who bring their food must eat their food. They cannot give it to their friends. They have to keep their hands away from your face, the mouth, and eyes as much as possible, and avoid touching our mask unless we've washed our hands immediately before and after. The goal in conversations with the health department is to keep the mask clean and as dry as possible. We've had several questions related to ventilation systems in our school district. We're very fortunate, based upon the age of our facilities, that we have MERV 11 to 13 rated filters in all of our locations across our school campus. We are increasing the outdoor air circulation mechanically as recommended by both the CDC and the engineers that we work with, specifically with Franklin County Public Health. Our interior classroom doors will remain open as much as possible based upon the specific activities that are going on within those classrooms. The exterior doors and windows, however, will remain closed. So based upon the age of our facilities, the air conditioning and ventilation systems that we have, the availability to mechanically push air throughout the facility, the exterior doors and windows will remain closed. The exception becomes on the bus. All windows on the bus will dominantly remain open. So as the weather continues to change and it gets a little bit colder, students will have to pay attention to what they're wearing if they're using transportation, because the windows on the bus will remain open to the greatest extent possible. We do have an on-site service manager. We're very fortunate that Mr. Butler is on our school campus every single day, and he is an expert in this area and will monitor all HVAC systems across the school campus to institute the recommendations of our health officials. Restrooms, all restrooms are available for students, and I've gotten a lot of questions about this from parents. I'm just going to say it very simplistically. Again, it goes back to exposure. A student is not exposed to another student who becomes COVID positive unless you've spent 10 to 15 minutes of direct contact with that person all at the same time. So we do not anticipate that, I'm just going to say boys, 2 boys will be at urinals in the restroom for 15 minutes straight. That's likely not going to happen. So therefore, all of those facilities are available for use. Same thing for the stalls. So the capacity of that restroom is based upon the number of stalls or urinals that are available in the facility. Sinks, stalls, and urinals will be used in accordance with the recommendations that we had last week with our meetings with Franklin County Public Health. As always, we'll ask students not to loiter or congregate in restrooms, and there will be frequent inspections of restrooms with the daily cleaning requirements associated to the protocols for COVID-19. As we look towards transportation, I remind everyone that transportation masks are required. There are no exceptions. If a student has a mask exemption, they will wear a face shield specifically on the transportation route, unless it's otherwise determined necessary by a medical provider. We will social distance on the bus to the greatest extent possible, but in order to maximize transportation services, and again, knowing that most students are not going to be on the bus for more than 15 minutes based upon a 35-minute bus ride, the routes turn over fairly quickly. 2 students will be assigned to every seat unless there's multiple siblings that are smaller in size at the elementary level, and we can sit more than 2 kids from the same family on the same seat. Routes this year are 35 minutes estimated in duration. There's 2 exceptions to that for the longest routes in the school district, but on average, most of our routes are 35 minutes across the school campus. We have to add 15 minutes for every route. Buses will be cleaned in between routes 6 to 8 times per day, depending on midday kindergarten route participation and specific buses within the fleet. So it's a 50-minute swing time in between routes for us to perform the duty of the route, to take students to and from school, traverse them to and from, and then to have 15 minutes in between to clean the seats. All seats must be disinfected that are used by students in between every single bus route. So every segment of the bus route requires the seat to be cleaned. We will clean the seats 6 to 8 times per day on every bus. Students must remain facing forward if they are on the bus at all times with their mask. And upon arrival to school or home, they'll follow the directions associated to the bus driver. We do anticipate that we're going to need support of families, specifically at bus stops, to try to make sure there's proper social distancing and mask wearing within the neighborhoods pending the arrival of the bus. So families are going to have to help us with that. So we hope that there will be lead parents at every bus stop to try to help us protect the safety and welfare of all the kids across the school district that are riding transportation. I will recommend tonight on the agenda, the transportation routes be approved. I am recommending an exception to board policy that we continue to transport all students in grades K through 5 and grades 6 through 12 remain 2 miles or greater from the school campus. The same bus transportation rules that we've had in place for the last 2 years to maximize the size and efficiency of our fleet. As we look towards food services for the start of the school year, we will have breakfast, lunch, and water available every single day. Families will be required to use pay schools to deposit money onto their student's account or send a check to the school building of their child's attendance, and the money will be deposited on the account from a check. There will be no cash accepted in the cafeterias this year due to COVID-19. Students in the cafeterias will be assigned to designated seats in cafeteria areas. That information will come out from building principals to explain the process on how students actually will select those areas within their respective building location. There'll be floor markings that are necessary to maintain the social distancing requirements within a cafeteria building. Again, I would just give a caveat that when there's 150 kids traveling into the cafeteria, much like there's 150 kids exiting a building during a fire alarm, it's perfectly fine for students in a very short period of time to be moving through a doorway for safety purposes. That's permissible. It just has to be 10 to 15 minutes max in the duration of time. So everything goes back to, in the rules of exposure, up to 15 minutes of direct contact with an individual. Serving lines and tables will be sanitized between groups. For middle school and high school students, a big change this year is that all the serving lines will have very similar food. They will not go to all different parts of the cafeteria to find different types of food at the middle school and high school. All the lines will be somewhat uniform in nature to give choices into assigned lines based upon your seating location. You will sit only in designated and marked seats because we have to maintain social distancing requirements of 3.5 to 5 feet, specifically in the cafeterias. We will not share food and drinks. We will take our masks off when we actually are seated and stationary and place it on a clean napkin. If you are a person coming from home, that's something else families might want to consider, is that the student will need to put that, we'll have paper towels available or napkins available for students. But families can also consider that if they're packing their lunch to make sure that there's something in the packed lunch for the student to put their mask on when they actually come to lunch. We're asking that the mask go back on students as soon as they're finished eating or drinking. They'll have to follow the directions of the cafeteria staff as always. We will have recess. We spent a significant amount of time in conversations with the Franklin County Public Health Department about how to administer recess. Because we cannot guarantee social distancing up to 6 feet at all times on the playground, students will be required to wear masks during recess. They will be in assigned zones as directed by their building administrators. So building principals or assistant principals will be sharing that information specifically with families based upon grade level and help you understand how recess is going to occur. But recess will occur, but students will be in assigned zones. The same group of students that they ate lunch with will be the same group of students that there's a cohort purpose. They'll actually be assigned to a cafeteria or assigned to a recess zone on the playground. They will use hand sanitizer before entering the playground. Our goal is to clean certain parts of the equipment based upon the conversations with health officials approximately every 2 hours, but to help keep things clean and disinfected because students will be touching things, they will use hand sanitizer before they actually enter the playground. The face coverings and masks must be worn. We will not have shared recess equipment. That's dominantly the example is a football. Football currently is not going to exist in the same way that it has historically. Basketball is still a potential, but it's basically not a pickup game. We will wash our hands and use sanitizer when we go back into the school building. And then the disinfectant of all equipment has to happen for the shared equipment purposes. The balls, the frisbees, or other things that kids play with will have to specifically be sanitized in between each lunch recess provision. We received some questions from families about what if my student has COVID-19 symptoms at home? So we put together some charts that we will be sharing with families prior to the first day of school. This is an example of a decision tree that we've done in cooperation with the COVID-19 task force officials, as well as the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio and other school districts throughout Central Ohio. So I'm not going to read every one of these, but I'm just going to tell you this is information that is going to come to our families if you have students coming to school in person to help you understand specifically what you should be looking for if there's symptoms of COVID-19, and then what specifically the process is within the decision tree of your family to either go contact your medical provider to determine if a test is or is not necessary, the number of days that it is or is not necessary for you to quarantine, and to monitor symptoms before you're able to come back to school. Additionally to that, if a student is already at school and demonstrates symptoms, so if it's before the school day starts, obviously you want your students to stay home. But if they're already at school and symptoms develop, there will be, again, a decision tree or an algorithm that's coming from Children's Hospital, Franklin County Public Health, and Columbus Public Health that will be used by our school nurses to make decisions on students' ability to remain at school or to be sent home. And again, we will share this information in detail with families attending school in person prior to the first day of school on September 8th. If a family member tests positive, there's also specific provisions that have to be followed within the home. So we, again, will share this information specifically with you if you're attending school in person to help you make decisions within your home and how to communicate that information specifically with the school district based upon a positive test case. And then the quarantine requirements that are specifically required up to 14 days from school based upon a positive test case within the home unit. If a staff member tests positive, we will follow the same protocols. That staff member will ultimately, if we test positive through COVID-19 testing, notify the district administrators, and then we will act accordingly. That person at the same time will not be permitted to come back to school for up to 14 days, and a substitute will be put into his or her teaching role until the period of self-isolation is over or the capacity for that person to return to work is possible, even in a remote-based environment. We've had several parents ask questions related to the information you're going to receive from the school district. So I'm going to tell you that the notification will not come from the school district related to positive test cases. We are prohibited through FERPA and through HIPAA for violation of confidentiality rules specifically related to COVID-19 positive test information. So we will send a very generic information or generic communication to families that will just basically alert you that there is suspicion or a positive, notified of a possible positive case. We cannot tell you that it's confirmed because it's a violation of HIPAA. This is where I would go back to the community conversation. And what you choose to share as parents with each other becomes your choice as a parent. But we as a school district are prohibited through FERPA and HIPAA to share specific information. I do not believe a person contracting COVID-19 within our school district, the coronavirus, needs to come with a stigma. We have to unite as a community to make it an okay conversation that someone has the potential to basically contract COVID-19. It's better for us to have that information, if at all possible, to try to ensure the safety and welfare of others. But from a school perspective, families need to clearly understand you are not going to receive a communication from us that identifies an individual by name or that someone has tested positive for COVID-19 in our school district. You will get something that says there's a possible case, but we cannot confirm that because it is a violation of FERPA and HIPAA. Bell schedules. As we look towards the 2020-21 school year, we've started to release information to our families. The school day will generally apply much to our VLP students as it does to our in-person students based upon the teacher work day. So you will receive specific information if you're a VLP family on exceptions to that at the elementary level from Mr. Emery and the secondary level from Mrs. Morgan, and I'll talk about them in just a second. But the Early Learning Center school day will be 8:50 to 3:20. The exception becomes half-day kindergarten, both AM and PM programming. Based upon the geography of our school district, we service literally half of our community in the morning, half of our community in the afternoon from a geography standpoint to maximize the efficiency of our buses for transportation. The primary school remains 9 a.m. to 3:40, And again, that is not changed from last year. That is the school day for students in grades 1, 2, and 3. Our intermediate school day remains the same for students in grades 4 and 5, or 9 o'clock to 3:40, just like the first, second, and third graders. The change that's happening for 2020-21 specifically impacts students in grades 6 through 12. In order to conduct approximately 40 bus routes that are 35 minutes in duration and allot 15 minutes for cleaning, we have to modify the student day somewhere in our school district to create the time necessary to clean the buses for disinfecting purposes as required by the health department. We're doing this in grades 6 through 12. So the school day is going to change for students in grades 6 through 12. The new school day will be 7:50 to 2:20 instead of 8 o'clock to 2:50 for the 2020-21 school year only. So this is a change. It's a one-year change for grades 6 through 12. The student day for grades 7 through 12 is 7:50 to 2:20. Again, the same as 6th grade. And again, entry and dismissal. High school is also the same, 7:50 to 2:20. Buses will all drop off prior to 7:45. Students have maximum, or actually minimum. Students have a minimum of 5 minutes. The earliest bus that'll come to campus right now is scheduled for a 7:25 to 7:30 arrival based upon the duration of its route. The longest route will get here just before 7:45. First bell is at 7:50 to start first period in grades 6 through 12. Our hybrid student groups, we are confirming this evening that the maroon and gold groups will be A through K and L through Z. There are 1,790 students currently assigned to in-person maroon groups and 1,809 students assigned to the in-person gold group. Maroon will come Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Monday. Gold comes Wednesday, Friday, and every other Monday. Again, A through K and L through Z. If you are a blended family with multiple students in your household with last names, we took the person in your household or the student with the first letter of the alphabet. All students were assigned to maroon or gold based upon the first letter of the alphabet for any student in your household if you have multiple students with different last names. There are some exceptions based upon special education caseloads, academic coursework, and balancing that was necessary. So although you may be an A through K, it is possible that we have assigned you to the gold group to meet the academic needs of your student, or vice versa. You might be an L through Z student, but we've assigned you to the maroon group based upon the academic needs of your student. That information will become available this week. Sharing with you as a reminder, and we've updated this a little bit based upon the correction from the last board meeting. We've made a couple tweaks. Orientation sessions will begin on Thursday, September 3rd for grades 1 through 6, and grades 7 through 12 will be on Friday the 4th. Additional information will be coming to you that's grade level specific and how to participate in those virtual orientation sessions within our school district, including the VLP students. Our first day for school, and I'm announcing this evening that I believe it should be 50% hybrid school attendance. So 50% of our students will come to school on Tuesday, September 8th. Our VLP students will start 100% at home. The gold group comes for the first time on Wednesday the 9th, and the maroon students will stay home, and 100% of the VLP kids will continue online. That never changes for the VLP kids. On Thursday, the 10th, we actually start the second day of maroon. So the maroon kids will come, but we also start the first day of kindergarten for our maroon students that are assigned. So we do have a staggered start to kindergarten, just like we have in years past, to allow us to conduct the assessments that are necessary on scheduled appointments with kindergarten teachers. And again, additional information will be coming directly to kindergarten families from the Early Learning Center. Then Friday the 11th, we continue with the gold group. So we have 2 days of school that week for maroon, 2 days of school that week for gold, based upon the current information I have. Preschool begins all in on Thursday the 10th, again, based upon the staggered start for assessments. We're able to bring all the preschool students in with special needs based upon the number of students participating in the program. Based upon data that we will receive both tomorrow and then again on Tuesday, September 1st, we will make a decision to continue in a hybrid fashion, September 14th through the 18th, which would again be 50%, likely, or an all-person or all-in person, provided that the data provides that opportunity. And again, how we attend school goes back to the roller coaster ride. Based upon what I presently know, we're forecasting hybrid. If for some reason the data would significantly tank, then we would have to reassess whether or not we can stay in hybrid or if it would require remote-based opportunity at some point during the school year. Same thing happens for all in. So if you're on the roller coaster ride, we're using the data that's provided by Franklin County Public Health, the Columbus Public Health Department with Dr. Mashika Roberts, and the Ohio Department of Health to look at zip code data with our task force to specifically make an informed choice of how we will attend school during the 2020-21 school year specifically. For our VLP friends at home, so these are our students in our school district that will attend the virtual learning program. Mr. Emery is the district administrator assigned to pre-K through 6, and his contact information and email is here. He's already introduced himself to his VLP friends, and Mrs. Morgan will be responsible for grades 7 through 12. So any questions specifically related to the VLP program, help associated to the VLP program, or general information related to the VLP program, these are your two dominant contacts, Mr. Emery for elementary, Mrs. Morgan for secondary. Tonight, we're also announcing the staff members that are assigned to the virtual learning program. So this information will also become available through PowerSchool at the end of the week. Because it's unique, and this is the first year we've actually had the virtual learning program within our school district, we felt it important to identify staff members that are assigned. So they're listed alphabetically by grade level. For our preschool kindergarten friends at the Early Learning Center, to our grades 1, 2, and 3. And again, they're listed alphabetically by grade level. So Mrs. Dye, Mrs. Hassman, Mrs. Maxwell, Mrs. Sheeran, and Mrs. Stanko are all first grade. Then we go to second grade and third grade respectively by alphabet. Grades 4 through 6 are also alphabetical by grade level. Middle school and high school, we also have specific teachers that have been identified. We do have a few teachers that will be part-time VLP, part-time in-person instruction. So they have a combined schedule to service the academic needs based upon what we discovered in going through and rebuilding the master schedules for the third time in the last really 6 weeks. So teachers are listed, and again, we'll start to have contact specifically with VLP students once they return to work at the end of this week. Special education staff and related service staff were also identified specifically for services. So the students remain ours as a school district, and we are responsible for facilitating specific requirements through their IEPs. That will continue for the 2020-21 school year, as well as students that receive services for English language learners. So we do have ELL students that will also be participating in the VLP program, and their services will be provided remotely through the PLP staff members that will be assigned. Technology. Today was our first day for tech distribution. This applies to all students in our school district, the exception being grades 6, 7, 8, or 10. If you are currently a 6th, 7th, 8th, or 10th grader, you likely already have a device with you at home that you kept for the summer because we did not collect it. However, every other student in grades 1 through 10 has the ability to come to tech distribution to receive your iPad from the school district, as well as all juniors and seniors will have an opportunity to receive a Chromebook from the school district. The technology remains the property of the New Albany Plain Local School District, and it's being loaned to you for your use for the 2020-21 academic year, and likely beyond unless you're a senior. So very quickly, we sent out information to our families. This is an example from today. It's actually still ongoing right now at the intermediate school. Families have assigned times alphabetically. So today was letters A through C, tomorrow is D through I, Wednesday is J through M, Thursday is N through R, and Friday is S through Z, to travel through the intermediate school to assign tents or car stops to actually receive your device deployment based upon an email ticket that we sent to you at your home. So this is Tech Distribution Week in preparation for the start of the school year. The number one question I'm getting from families is being unveiled tonight. So before Friday this week, you will have access to PowerSchool. PowerSchool will be unlocked for the 2020-21 school year. We know you're anxiously awaiting to see student schedules, teacher assignments, specifically within our school district. So when you see your student schedule in grades 6 through 12, it tells you the teacher assigned to a specific course. Teacher assignments are also in PowerSchool for our elementary friends in pre-K through 5. PowerSchool unlocks whether you have transportation information. We do appreciate over 300 families that notified the school district that you've opted out of transportation for at least the first semester based upon your ability to transport your student during the restrictions associated to COVID-19. E-collect forms will go live and you're actually required to fill those out electronically, so we don't collect paper from you anymore. It's a paperless system where you basically update information on an annual basis, so we have the most current information for you and your household. We will ask you to update or confirm contact information specifically for parents or guardians within a household, the emergency contacts for your student, as well as physician information. If you have a change of address in our school district, you cannot do that on your own. You have to verify your register or address with the school district pursuant to Ohio Revised Code. If you are changing mailing addresses and you see a mailing address that's wrong in PowerSchool, please contact the registrar in our school district and she will facilitate that process for you. We promise PowerSchool will be live before Friday. Athletics. We actually kicked off last Friday under the new executive order issued by the Ohio Department of Health and actually have administered the new requirements for health and safety associated to athletics. And again, I'm not going to read all these to you. I'm going to tell you there's many health and safety protocols that were outlined in a 12-page document that came as an executive order from the Ohio Department of Health that we are implementing across our school campus. It does significantly change the ability for people to come to events. Our new capacity is 15% of the normal participation level. Everything happens through pre-sale. So for example, on the home side of our stadium, we can basically have 425 people come instead of the over 3,000 people that used to come. So we have limited capacity based upon the new rules, but it does provide opportunities for our students to still be able to participate presently in co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So we are communicating this information directly with families that are participating in specific sports. The capacity limits change by every single venue. So if you are in the middle school gym, it is not the same as being in the intermediate school gym. There's different capacity limits, so that changes the number of tickets that we are allowed to sell. This coming Friday is our first home football game. Unfortunately, based upon the number of tickets that we are permitted to have for spectators, students will be limited to 2 per family because we have to accommodate the football team, the cheerleaders, and the marching band. Marching band is not permitted to travel. They are only allowed to be at home events only. Cheerleaders will have some restrictions for travel. Smaller number will still be able to travel to away games, but again, there's different restrictions in every sport. If you are unable to attend, we had the foresight that Mr. Wieldinghouse had actually started researching this prior to COVID to actually introduce a new streaming situation that actually allows us to stream through our athletic events live when they're actually going on our school campus. So the live streaming service is through NFHS's network. It's $10.99 per month or $69.99 per year. We've sent out the subscription information through Newswire, but right now we have the ability to allow families to stream basketball, presuming it happens in the winter, field hockey this fall, football this fall, lacrosse in the spring, soccer currently, and volleyball. Mr. Wieldinghouse and Mrs. Anderson are also actively working to determine how to rearrange schedules to allow middle school athletics to have some streaming opportunities as well. So when we can put middle school in the stadium, we will put middle school competitions in the stadium to let them also be able to be streamed. Same thing with volleyball. So if we have the opportunity for football and volleyball for middle school, we will do that. Can't do it all the time, but we will do some. Last Friday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, the governor also released some preliminary information to Restart Ohio for guidance related to the arts. We value the performing arts and theater programs we have for our students in our school district. Clearly, based upon the requirements that we have within our graduation requirements discussed this evening, I anticipate the executive order will be discussed tomorrow at the press conference because there was no press conference on Friday. They just released the preliminary guidance document. When the executive order comes to the school district, we will then go through and implement the executive order to allow students to be able to participate in the performing arts or theater programs. The current guidelines that I've read over the weekend mirror much of what's in the athletic participation. Specific limits on student participation, the capacity size of what's available within an indoor versus outdoor facility, and all the health and safety protocols. The good news in the interim is that I can tell you the band, choir, and orchestra will all be available to both in-person and VLP students within our school district for the 2020-21 school year. So that will happen beginning with the first day of school. The theater productions and how we do student performances or concerts will be planned for when the executive order is confirmed. So we are working on drafting some information based upon the release that was provided last Friday, but clearly we need to see the executive order to see what else gets added to determine, in cooperation with our teachers and the directors, how we actually go forward with those productions. We are committed to the arts. We want them to be alive and well in New Albany during the 2020-21 school year, but have to do it in accordance with the health requirements from the Ohio Department of Health. Our path forward, what happens next? So over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll continue to collaborate and problem solve and participate actively in the meetings with Franklin County Public Health, given that they are the local health resource that we're responsible to. We will look at the active data analysis and discussions with our task force. So the data that's coming, there's 2 more key dates. Tomorrow is a significant date based upon the current data trend. We're in week 3 of 4 of a downward data trend. So I'm hoping that that continues and we are able to see that tomorrow. And then September 1st is the next most important data. From there, we look at case counts, positivity rates, and more. This past week, the positivity rate dropped to 5.3%. The goal is 5%. So I'm hoping that tomorrow's data is extremely positive to affirm the 4th week of a downward data trend and to also affirm a positivity rate of approximately 5%, which I believe then gives us the feasibility that Franklin County specifically might turn orange by Labor Day. My fear is 3 weeks after Labor Day. So this is where community participation and help will keep our schools safe and open. We will continue our planning and implementation of the health and safety protocols. Our teachers do return this week on Thursday. We're doing staff development activities to build skills and help everyone understand specifically the health and hygiene requirements that are required for us to be open. We will continue to communicate and provide updates to everyone. And then I anticipate, based upon tomorrow's data, that and/or next Tuesday's data, depending on which says what, that we will have the special or emergency Board of Education meetings that we've talked about previously. We have a hold right now on Wednesday the 2nd in our calendars based upon our previous conversations. But again, need to see what tomorrow's data brings and/or next Tuesday's data brings to determine when we have those special or emergency meetings. I'm mentioning them because we talked about them at the previous board meeting. Several community members wondered why we were having a special meeting or an emergency meeting, and the intent is to talk about the safe and responsible restart to the school year. Again, I just want to remind people our current plan is on Tuesday, September 8th, we start Maroon. 50% of the kids come to school. You'll know which group your kid is in, and I'm going to tell you dominantly A through K is the maroon group, L through Z is the gold group. There are some exceptions. You'll see that in Power School later this week. We go first week hybrid, 50-50. So your kids are here Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, and the data then will tell us the rest of the ride. Again, we'll adjust and adapt as we get the data and recommendations from our health officials to take the journey. So I anticipate we're starting in hybrid. We're hoping to go all in. And at some point during the school year, we could go back to hybrid, we could go to e-learning, we can come back to all in, we could go to hybrid, we can go to e-learning, whatever it's going to become based upon the data and the health requirements. We are stronger together. I truly do believe this. I want to thank everyone within our community for doing everything they can on a daily basis to keep our kids safe and keep our community safe so our teachers and faculty and staff can come back and we're able to begin an incredible 2020-21 school year on Tuesday, September 8th. Happy to answer any questions or take any comments from the board. The thunder rolls.
There is a storm brewing. I'm sure other members have plenty that they would like to say. I guess I will just start by thanking you, Superintendent Sawyers, and the administration for continuing to just put together tremendous presentations that are full of lots of detail. The amount of effort, thought, discussion, collaboration that has gone into getting our district ready so that our kids can come back to school is it's incredible, and we appreciate the time and energy and effort. Never mind the fact with all of this that we're still trying to actually get the educational piece ready, but all of the other things that COVID has brought, I can't thank you enough for the effort that you're putting in for all of our kids. And so I'm sure that the community appreciates it. They can't be here to thank you, so I will. And with those platitudes, I will turn it over to other members to comment on anything specifically.
I'll just echo, how grateful I am, and I know so many families feel this way, that you're leading us through this, Michael. I know the endless hours you and the team have put in, and it shows up every time you speak. I have so much confidence in all the well thought out, measured approach that you've presented tonight to reopening. And this school year is going to be a school year like no other. I think, we are all here to try to do our very best this year for our students. And I just want to thank families again for bearing with us, and all the uncertainty that this year brings. I also want to, reinforce the message that this is a partnership. Everything that Michael shared tonight shows how critical it is that our parents and our community members, our families, partner with us to make this a successful school year. Everything from monitoring children's health every day to following protocols that are recommended by the health professionals outside of school, and then reinforcing the protocols that we're asking kids to follow during school. All of that is a partnership with all of our families. And we really also need everyone to stay vigilant about helping us to get these numbers down, and not only just to bring kids back, but also so that we can keep kids in school in person. So just want to thank our families for continuing to partner with us and bear with us as there is a lot of uncertainty that we're facing this year. And again, thank Michael and the team for just an incredible detailed plan to getting us back to school.
I think Debbie, John covered it very well. I'll just, again, reiterate the platitudes. Thank you for all the efforts. I'll reiterate the community. Thank you for your patience. Let's all continue to work together. Let's get our kids back to school, and let's keep them there. I also appreciate the continual look at data and to the community. We've said it's a roller coaster. We'll continue to monitor this. Michael said a couple important facts relative to some of the data coming out tomorrow, Tuesday, as well as on the 1st. So we will be operating this roller coaster right up until the amusement park opens here. So I did have a question. Maybe it's going to be covered another time. I know we've got, that's great to hear that we're going to be able to keep the same transportation options as we've had in past years. Any update on what loops will be open in terms of off of Old 161 or anything new this year? I know that we likely will have some parents taking more advantage of dropping their kids off, and that's been challenges in prior years.
So thank you, Mr. Newmoff. For parent purposes, and we'll send this out as part of the information for back to school, all the loops are going to be open that have traditionally been open. So the bus loop for buses remains in the intermediate school bus depot. All the other loops will become drop-off loops, with the exception of the primary school front loop is still a daycare bus drop-off. So those parents at the primary school will be redirected to others. But the middle school, high school center cafeteria loop will still be available as an express drop-off. So that will be open every morning for express drop-off, not pickup, but specifically drop-off, just like it was last school year. So all the loops that historically have been used for drop-off remain available to families. And I would encourage parents to even consider, again, we're a walking school campus, and it goes back to the reality of keep in your head 10 to 15 minutes equals exposure. So if a student is walking from point A to point B from a different loop, I would encourage you based upon traffic patterns, because Mr. Newmoff is right, there's going to be more parents dropping off this year than there ever have been before. So I would experiment with the different loops based upon your geography of where you're coming from, and maybe choose a loop that's not assigned to your child's grade level or building, because I will tell you in the morning at 7:30, there's 3 cars historically, and I won't tell you who the parents are, that have used the primary loop for the last 2 years to drop off middle school and high school kids, because no parents drop off at the primary school loop. But there's no traffic. You're not sitting in the McCoy loop. You're not sitting in Photo Road traffic. You can drop and immediately go. Your child walks down the sidewalk to their school building. It's a 3-minute walk. I would encourage that happens. But all the loops will be available for parent pickup and drop off.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just quickly echo what John, Debbie, and Paul have already said. So thank you, Michael and team, for all the detail, transparency, and obvious tremendous effort that's gone into navigating and leading us through these really challenging times. So really all I just want to say is a little more along what Paul was speaking to, which is, you know, for those families who want their kids back in school, we're doing our best, but clearly we're going to do it safely, following the data and health and safety experts. So please know that we definitely care about the safety of our kids, staff, teachers, and the broader community.
I suppose I should say something. So I don't want to repeat what everybody else said, so I won't. And you know, my goal is the same, and I think our goal is the same as it's been 4 months now. Let's get the kids back in school. Let's keep them in school. Let's do what it takes to make sure that that happens, and do so safely for everyone involved.
Mr. Sawyers, a couple of questions related to the presentation. Could you just clarify, you mentioned that the school year last year for middle school, high school was the 8 a.m. start, the 2:50 end of the day. We are now going to a 7:50 start, but a 2:20 end of the day. So that's a difference of 20 minutes of instructional time or other time. Could you explain what's going to happen or what we're missing in those 20 minutes?
So President Ball, members of the Board of Education, Mrs. LeBeau and Mr. Kramer and their respective teams will be sharing that schedules with families specific at the middle school and high school. But we've shaved some time off of the beginning of the school day to get kids from buses specifically into the building. So we're doing that in 5 minutes now instead of 10. So then when the school day starts, we've decreased the passing times in hallways because we actually don't want students congregating. So the expectation is, because you're not going to a locker, there's no lockers. You should be able to go from classroom A to classroom B and do it in basically 3 to 4 minutes, depending on your building. So we've sped up that process to basically get kids from point A to point B to still give us 47 to 50 minutes within periods throughout the day. So those schedules will be coming to respective students and families in grades 6 through 12, and Mr. Kramer and Mrs. LeBeau will share that information. It's actually, I have it, we just haven't posted it, and I didn't put it in the presentation tonight because it was very much into the detail, but that detail is coming for in-person families before the end of the week.
Okay, thank you. And then as it relates to, I know you mentioned there will be some more information coming out on fine arts, which we'll be getting tomorrow from the governor. He's already put out the athletic information, and you made the comment about the number of people who could actually attend sporting events. And I know that it gets really tricky when you start talking about students wanting to come and watch games or other people in the community. But with that 15% capacity, is there going to be a process? I know we have our first football game on Friday. There may be a couple of other events. I mean, I know there was a cross country event that I believe has been canceled because of the storm. But are there other opportunities for people other than parents who are in the community to come and participate?
So Mr. Kramer will be working with Mr. Wieldinghouse, Mrs. LeBeau, and Ms. Anderson to talk about what tickets remain available probably the day of an event, or the day before an event. All tickets are pre-sale, so I do not anticipate that there's going to be extra tickets for Friday night for the first home football game because of the number of football players, cheerleaders, and marching band members. So I think it is unlikely that there will be any extra tickets particularly for football. However, using soccer last Friday night, we probably could have sold an additional 150 tickets, ballpark number 175, that still could have been available to the public because of the pre-sale number. So we're going to put a process in place once we get our routines in place to understand how all of this works and that the systems actually do what they're supposed to do, and we're in compliance with all the health regulations and orders, that then we'll give access to available seating. But again, it'll be through pre-sale. So persons would have to purchase the ticket online and then have the opportunity to come. So there's specific rules for cohorting, sitting with your family members, how the seats actually exist within the stadium. All that has been put in place. So Mr. Wieldinghouse, Ms. Anderson, in cooperation with Mr. Kramer and Mrs. LeBeau, will share that information after we probably get the first week to two under our belt to understand how all this works. But I do not expect that this Friday there's going to be any extra tickets for a thing called football at the stadium. Because there's 2 tickets currently per family for football, cheerleaders, and marching band members.
Gotcha, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, next item.
We'd like to turn to Mr. Hood and an update specifically on diversity, equity, and inclusion within our school district. In cooperation with Diane Herman, who is a parent well-being community liaison in our school district as well. So I'd like to welcome John and Diane to the board meeting.
Well, thank you for the invite, and President McClellan, board members, it's a pleasure to come and give a quick update on the things that have been happening around diversity and equity and inclusion. And it is my pleasure to have Diane join me tonight in this presentation. She's worked quite a bit over the summer to keep this all moving. I mean, candidly, COVID has kind of hijacked all of our jobs this summer. And so it's been nice to be able to lean on Diane and to continue to have our work around diversity and equity and inclusion move forward, and taking the opportunity to share with you some of those details. And Becky, you can move to the next slide, please. Just a really quick revisit again of this purpose, mainly to point out that in addition to those academic things that we feel are so important, we want kids to be solid academically. We want them to be good problem solvers, good critical thinkers. We've also got as a district this commitment that developmental outcomes are just equally as important to us for kids. And so I just wanted to, for those that are viewing, just to revisit that quickly to emphasize those developmental outcomes. And then moving to the next slide, it indicates for us that a few years ago, we took that emphasis around developmental outcomes, and we developed a well-being initiative that has a vision that's really similar actually to our purpose statement for the district, indicating that for each student, we want to possess strong sense of well-being. And I love the fact that when the folks that were coming together to sort of word craft this, that they chose both for the purpose and for this vision statement to indicate that it's each student. And we've talked about this before, where when we see bar graphs and when we see data points and things like that, I just want us constantly to be reminded that each of those data points has a student's name. It's got a student's story that goes with it. And that's one of the things I love about the Wellbeing Initiative, is that it's focusing on the needs of our students, specifically around well-being. The next slide indicates for you that it's a very thoughtful process. So it's a situation where we want to, in a very organized way, identify what gaps are there around wellness, and then fill those gaps with research-based, professional development sort of driven programs and resources. And then after we've implemented those, to measure those outcomes, and then to determine what are the results of those things that we've been implementing. And so this is really just to sort of remind us that the process that we go through is always very intentional, and that the things that we're doing are falling underneath what we would consider to be educational best practice. So they're not just sort of knee-jerk reactions, but they're things that are based in research and based in professional development. The next slide sort of indicates for us that this summer then we had this unique moment in time, I guess is the best way maybe to describe it, where we had some tragic things take place across the nation around racial injustice. And it caused us to step away from where we normally would get our information about holes and gaps. So if we typically would go to things like Hanover Research and provide surveys to students, where we'd ask them questions about substance use, or we'd ask them questions about social emotional learning. And instead, what we found this summer was we got this kind of organic response to these horrible, tragic national events that then started to bring us these student stories that we're starting to identify for us here in New Albany, things that we consider to be holes and gaps around diversity and equity and inclusion. These were difficult stories to hear, to be honest.
I believe we've lost him.
I know, we're trying to find him.
He's
Hold on.
he's frozen on my screen, so
I think he just got zapped.
yeah.
Are we still streaming?
It looks like we're still live on YouTube. So we just had a
Yeah, we should tell people.
yeah, we just
have lightning strike.
yeah, we just had a lightning strike or something. The lights flickered here, and maybe in your own home that happened too. And I believe Mr. Hood was over in our administration building, so it could very well be that he experienced a little bit of a shutdown, like we almost did here. So he's probably just in the process of refreshing. Yeah, let me just check and see if it's. I'm gonna view the stream on YouTube. We are still streaming. Yep.
I've asked him to refresh, but hold on just a minute. There was a power blip at the AO.
So, Mr. Sawyers, we are still live. Do you just want to hold until Mr. Hood can get back on?
Mrs. Herman, are you on?
I'm here.
Can you pick up?
I can. I've kind of lost where he was exactly on this slide. I know he was talking about everything that's been going on in the country. We've kind of have addressed this at previous board meetings. You know, these are the areas: diversity, equity, inclusion, and in the middle is belonging, where we need to go. So I think we can jump ahead to the next slide. So based on, you know, how do we fill this gap of what we need? Our framework is going to be ongoing training, professional development, reflection, opportunities for students to become involved in this so that their voice is heard and brought into the conversation with us, parent engagement and feedback, equity audits, the DEI committees, the diversity, equity, and inclusion committees, as well as additional community connections throughout that entire New Albany. We can jump ahead to the next slide. So what has happened already so far? Our high school and middle school principals have met with a group of students to have honest conversations about their experiences at school, how they feel we can do better, and what intentional education we can bring to address climate and culture in the buildings. We're using their answers to help guide us as we move forward. In addition, we have arranged with Public Schoolworks for each faculty and staff member to participate in implicit bias online training. This will be required training beginning this fall and then offered annually as new faculty and staff join our learning community. We have also attended multiple webinars over the summer and spoken to several area experts to find the best partner for us as we move forward with the areas that we mentioned on the last slide: professional development, parent and student education, curriculum development. There are several professors at Ohio State University who can offer assistance with these areas. The Educational Service Center has book studies and discussions, as well as teacher coursework and professional development. The Kirwan Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicity is an interdisciplinary research institute at OSU. They can provide equity audits and consultation. And Radical Learning Spaces provided us with professional development last year, specifically around trauma. The next slide. So what's happening next? Recognizing the need to address these concerns that have been raised over the summer and questions, and to start the school year talking about race and racism right up front, we have invited Dr. Hassan Jeffries to speak to our faculty during our Professional Development Day next Monday. Dr. Jeffries is a well-respected author and associate professor of history at The Ohio State University. He has spoken widely on race and racism, most recently to history teachers in the state of Virginia, the State Library of Ohio members, the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. His presentation is going to be called Seize the Moment, Teaching Race and Racism Accurately and Effectively During Troubled Times. Okay, next. Where do we go now? This fall, we're going to be offering an invitation to faculty, staff, parents, and students to participate in specific building level diversity, equity, and inclusion committees. We'll have representatives from those committees join us on district-wide committees. And their voices, along with our identified experts, will help us to set our goals and our action plans and monitoring to ensure continuous improvement moving forward. And with that, I think I can try and answer, as well as Mr. Sawyer's, any questions and comments.
Debbie, before we have questions or comments, is there anything you'd like to add as the board liaison?
Can you guys hear me? I just want to thank John and Diane and everyone involved for all the work that's gone into this. There have been many interviews and a lot of research done to develop a plan that helps our school to strive to become the best version of itself. Only by working together can we become the best version of ourselves, both individually and institutionally. And this work will help us to support our purpose statement and help every student feel safe and valued and flourish in our environment. So I would just emphasize the importance of this work and just know that you have the entire board's support.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Sawyer's next topic.
Ms. Jenkins, Little Turtle, please.
So we've received some information about the Little Turtle development. I don't have a ton, but I think enough for us to get some idea. As you know, they are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. They are supposed to be a higher level apartment. And they are starting leasing. I think they will begin letting people move in September. So if you look at this slide, on the left-hand side, you can see the school district boundary, the red outline. That's the area that was developed and is inside the New Albany Plain Local Schools. The areas outside of that are Westerville. The picture on the right shows the actual buildings that are inside our district that will have apartments, and I believe there's one parking garage. These are all of the parcels that were developed into apartment buildings by the Little Turtle Development Company. And again, another slide that just shows kind of a little closer picture of the area developed and then that red area that is the school district. These are the actual buildings that have been completed at this point. This is a list of the different buildings and the number of units in each building. So there will be a total of 150 apartments in the New Albany Plain Local School District. One bedroom, there will be 48 one bedroom that will lease from between $1,075 and $1,140 per month, and then 102 two bedroom apartments that will lease for $1,180 to $1,323 per month. One building you'll notice is split, number 5121. Yeah, you can see it on this slide kind of towards the top, middle. There are 6 units that are in New Albany schools and 6 of those units in Westerville City Schools. The only thing we have not gotten a confirmation on are the number of students that the developer expects to come from those units. A low range is probably 50. It could be 50 to 100. I've reached out to a couple of community experts to help us kind of gauge the number of students we might see coming from those apartments, and we're working on that. But I'm guessing it's probably closer to the 50 range because they're a little bit higher priced and they're newer. The leasing company did tell us that the 1 bedroom apartments can only have 2 people in it, and the 2 bedroom apartments are only permitted to have 4 people living in the units. This slide actually shows the units that are in Westerville. So remember I said we have 150 units. Westerville is actually 403 apartment units. So they have, they're going to have a much greater impact than what we will have. Do you have any questions? There's not a lot of information yet. And the leasing company really has not been, they don't have a lot of information to help with the questions that we've given to them. So it's coming. That's all we know.
So you probably don't, since you say you don't have the enough information really for this, 102 units, and how many? 102 two bedroom units. You can't say that it wouldn't happen, but it's probably not as likely that those 1 bedroom units would have children, but it's possible. The calculation used to determine how many students could come from that number of apartments is based on a general area number?
Correct.
Okay.
I did reach out to Olentangy schools because they have some of this in their district and they have clearly a lot more growth than what our district has. For this level of apartment, they would use a 0.15 yield for the 1 bedroom and a 0.2 yield for the 2 bedroom. If that held true, then we would look at about 28 students. But because it's also in that general Columbus area where we already have some apartments, it's likely to be slightly higher than that. So that's where the 50 students, where I'm thinking that it'll be about 50 students from those apartments.
Thank you.
Well, twice the number is a little more than slightly higher.
Right. Yeah. But it's less than the few hundred that we had originally thought.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Please.
Oh, okay, so that's the next item on the agenda here.
Mrs. Cameron from Plain Local Education Association.
Oh, great. Ms. Cameron?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm Tirza Cameron. I'm a sixth grade teacher, and I have a couple highlights from some of the things that some of the teachers have done this summer. Valerie Pettigrew and Sandy Reed, who are eighth grade science teachers, they attended a virtual Ohio oil and gas and energy education program in August. The professional geologists shared resources that will help our students understand where oil and gas originate in the industry. Geology is a large component of the eighth grade science standards. Classroom teachers shared resources on how to teach geology in a virtual setting, including demonstrating lessons in labs, connecting teachers to additional resources to support virtual learning. The curriculum and resources shared at this workshop will help all our eighth grade students understand the importance of geology in the state of Ohio, how it affects our economic development, and enable the eighth grade science teachers to provide virtual instruction that is relevant to their lives. Lindsay Harrington completed, she is an art teacher, and she completed an 8-week studio watercolor course for art educators through the Art of Education University. The course provided an in-depth look at water painting, history, techniques, and applications for educators. The resources and ideas provided in this course will be very beneficial in improving the teaching of watercolor medium, increasing the use of visual journals, embedding more opportunities for art criticism, and enhancing and refining lesson plans and curriculum. And then congratulations to a student, Charlotte Chung, who is an incoming senior. She was a student in Miss Montague's Drawing 1 class. She won a national award for her artwork and had her work featured on the Saks Art School Specialty website for the entire month of July. So thank you for letting me represent the New Albany teachers and students.
Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. That is our last communication item this evening. The next item that we have on the agenda are discussion items and board liaison reports. Anyone have anything to report this evening? Ms. Kalinowski.
I am honored to be able to give an update on New Albany Bridges. And I'm just going to read this quick because they gave me some information to share tonight. The New Albany Bridges is a local branch of the nonprofit organization Neighborhood Bridges. Their primary goal is to remove non-cognitive barriers to learning. For example, helping a child get prescription glasses, clothing, or a bed can greatly affect that child's ability to focus on their work. So our local chapter of this is called New Albany Bridges, and they regularly post needs in the New Albany community on their website via social media. So we'd like to ask everyone to please support this effort by subscribing to their website so that you can get the email updates related to what the needs in the community are. When we come together as a community, one small act on your part can make a huge difference in the world of one of our students or families. I also just want to take this quick opportunity to thank everyone involved, all the volunteers and community partners, and a special thanks to Sarah Ryan and Vanitha Thomas, who are our New Albany Bridges directors. So you can subscribe via New Albany Bridges website, and the website is www.neighborhoodbridges.org/community New Albany, Ohio, or OH. You can also follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, but the overarching message is this is a really powerful way to directly serve those in need in our community. And we really hope everyone subscribes to support it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports this evening? Okay, with none, Mr. Sawyers, the next thing is board policy, a discussion on a number of different proposed additions, revisions to board policy. Anything to comment on?
Thank you, President McClellan. Members of the Board of Education, tonight we present Policy 2266. This has been an inordinate task accomplished by Lori Lofton, the Assistant Superintendent, to basically integrate the new Title IX requirements specifically for non-discrimination on the basis of sex into the school district for programs or activities. This is a very significant, lengthy policy that will continue to be refined most likely in the short term based upon the work that's still coming out from the feds. But Lori has spent months, like her life, literally, trying to comb through the federal requirements that were really imposed into higher education institutions that have now been applied to preschool through 12th grade for Title IX dominant purposes, but at the same time also for non-discrimination on the basis of sex, the specific definitions under federal statute, et cetera, et cetera. This is a very lengthy policy. We're in the process clearly of implementing it within the school district. Or specific professional development is required for faculty and staff within our school district for specific roles that are required under federal statute to implement this within the school district at large. So dominantly falls with Mrs. Lofton to the Human Resources Department and her role with the Assistant Superintendentship in our school district, but it has been an incredible amount of work, and Lori and team have put this together. And we presented tonight for recommendation for adoption by the board to meet all the timelines and requirements associated to the federal provisions. Our website has been updated with all of the new requirements for public notice to meet the requirements within federal definitions. So there's a lot of things that have happened in the last really month related to this specific policy to meet the compliance that actually started last Friday under the new federal statute. Also this evening, and Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Kramer spoke to them, the graduation requirements and students at risk of not qualifying for the adoptions changes to the graduation requirements based upon ORC and ODE specific requirements are presented tonight for first reading. All the other policies presented tonight are for second reading. I talked about them in the last Board of Education meeting, but happy to answer any questions board members may have.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. We do have an opportunity for public participation. There were 2 submissions this evening that I will read briefly, and then we will move on to treasurer's items. Both of these items, I believe, were to some degree addressed in Mr. Sawyer's presentation. They both are relating to the arts. The first one is from the New Albany High School Theater Boosters. Our children are our greatest resource. This belief is evidenced in the way we've all rallied around them in an attempt to keep them safe during the last several months as we battled against the spread of coronavirus. In the beginning, isolation was our only option, but as we have learned more about this virus and its spread, we have slowly developed protective gear and safety guidelines that have allowed us to return to our prior activities. These activities sometimes look very different than they did before, but the important thing is that we can do them and do them safely. In the last month or 2, a great deal of time and effort has been spent developing protocols for our children's safe return to their education and the sports they love. Now that we have a fluid plan in place for academics and athletics, it's time to turn some of our attention to the arts. One of the amazing aspects of our community is their unwavering support of the arts. In fact, arts and culture is one of its 4 pillars. As members of the New Albany High School Theater Boosters, we would like to draw your attention to how important participation in the performing arts is to our children. With our district's robust programs in drama and choir, it is not surprising that many of the student participants in these programs intend to major in performance-related fields in college. For those students, ongoing experience in these areas is of paramount importance. At the college level, performance-related programs tend to be very competitive, and building both artistic skills and a performance resume are necessary to our children's success as they apply to these competitive programs. In addition to our students who plan to pursue the performing arts as a career path, we also have hundreds of students who participate in performance-based activities for enjoyment, stress relief, social skills development, confidence building, a sense of belonging, and a chance to express their talent and creativity. More often than not, without even knowing it, these students grow and develop a number of critical skills that will carry them into adulthood: improved communication skills, organization, teamwork, leadership, creativity, and empathy, to name a few. Last spring, our students were hit hard by the cancellation of several performances, including the spring play, and by the absence of all opportunities to participate in the arts over the summer. For many of these students, performing truly embodies who they are, and without it, they are not simply whole, or simply not whole. With scientific studies helping to create guidelines to protect our children and allow them to safely return to the performance-based activities they are so passionate about, it is time to look at how we can make that happen in New Albany. At our most recent Theater Booster meeting, Elliot Lemberg, the high school theater director, and Carrie Horton, high school choir director, shared with us a proposal outlining scheduling changes and safety protocols that would allow New Albany students to return safely to the theatrical performing arts. Based on research, scientific evidence, and best practices put forth by National Theater and other performing arts organizations, and the recent reopening recommendations for the performing arts from Governor DeWine, this plan contains graded safety measures that can easily be modified to provide protection to our students as concerns of the virus spread, increase, and decrease over time. We would like to go on record in full support of this proposal, which is currently in the hands of the high school administration. With the proper modifications made and the proper protocols put in place, the show can go on. We ask for your support as we attempt to make this happen. Again, that's the New Albany High School Theater Boosters. And then one other public comment. This is from Anjali and Jory Friedman at 4848 Brooksview Circle here in New Albany. Good evening, Superintendent Sawyers and the board. First off, we want to thank you for your efforts in allowing us to go back to school, whether it be virtual, hybrid, or in person. We have watched several of the previous board meetings, and the one thing we have noticed in each of them is you rarely seem to discuss the future of the arts at our school. Hundreds of students here at New Albany schools are involved in the arts in some way, shape, or form, whether it be theater, band, choir, orchestra, or something else along those lines. We feel that it is necessary there is a plan in place for the 2021 school year. My sister and I are both involved in choir and musical theater. We look forward to both of these activities during the school day and after school as well. The people we do it all with are the people who, in quote, get us, the people who accept us for who we are and allow us to be ourselves. For many of us, theater is our sport. Like in any other sport, our theater group is our team. We are working together with people who share common interests to create something we are proud to share with our community. And just like a sports team that has strong bonds and supports each other, our theater family is our support network. If we don't have the opportunity to take part in what we love most, then we are losing our outlet to express ourselves. In the arts, we pride ourselves in creative thinking. We would love the opportunity to work with you to find creative and meaningful ways that allow us to continue doing what we love most, which is to create music and perform. Thank you for your time. We hope you take this all into consideration, Anjali and Jory Friedman. So thank you both for that. That was a very heartfelt letter, and we appreciate you sending it to us and participating this evening. And thanks to the boosters as well. Now to treasurer's items. Could I have a motion for treasurer's items A and B?
So moved.
Mr. Darrow, on a second.
Second.
By Ms. Kalinowski. Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you. We have two financial reports that we're doing today. The July meeting is too early for us to get our fiscal year closed and ready for the board. So June, I'll talk about, is the end of our fiscal year. Our revenue ended up being 0.1% under what we had originally estimated in October. Although we had a reduction in state aid of $741,000, we did still collect about $400,000 more in income tax than anticipated, which helped offset. And then we had the two Bureau of Worker Comp refunds that were about $240,000 that again also helped offset that. We will have to continue to watch the income tax sharing for the current year, as I think there's going to be a bit of a lag. So we'll monitor that as the year goes on. And then expenditures, we were actually 5.3% under our budgeted expenses, which was not a surprise to us since we were closed for about 4 months. The biggest areas that we did not spend in were utilities and some other purchase services, and then capital. And then if you remember capital, we ended up transferring some of those funds into permanent improvement. And then of course, supplies and materials were about $270,000 under budget. So for the year, we ended about $3.4 million higher than anticipated. What I will say about that, though, is that starting with the new year, we are on plan. July financials show that we're where we would expect to be. We're 1 month in. But if you remember, we spent about $395,000 for an online learning PLP that was not part of our budget. We've spent almost $200,000 on PPE for district-wide for not just some of our students and staff, some of those masks that we're going to have on hand. There's a limited supply of those, but then also we have our clinics that needed to make sure they had the right kind of mask. They needed to have the disposable gowns that we don't typically have for them. No touch thermometers. So we spent almost $200,000 there at least. So, and we're not done yet. So where we didn't spend last year, we're starting to spend more this year than what we had originally budgeted. So I guess it all hopefully won't come completely out in the wash. But the other thing that we know that we're going to spend more money on this year is that our bus routes had to be 30 minutes longer than what they normally are, because we had to have time incorporated into not just their turnaround time, but also being able to clean the buses in between picking up the different groups of students. So that's financials. Also, I wanted to point out on the June financial report, the last page is the construction fund, and you'll see that that's a zero because we ended up spending the rest of the money that was in there, about $95,000 on the playground. So that fund is now completely done and won't be reporting on that. Then we also have appropriation modifications, varying degrees. The largest one I want to point out is Fund 510 Coronavirus Relief Fund. It's an additional $246,552.34. We didn't anticipate that money. That's why it's on here as an appropriation increase. What I will likely do is recode some of those PPE and cleaning supplies into this Fund 510 to help offset those costs. All of the other increases or decreases are all based on the allocation that we were given by the federal government. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? None. Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff, President McClelland.
Yes. Now to superintendent's items. And could I have a motion for superintendent's items A through E? Reminder that the addendum items that we have in personnel and general business.
So moved.
Mr. Darrow, and a second by Mr. Newmoff. Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President McClellan. The members of the Board of Education, letter A for personnel this evening are standard employment action items for the 2020-21 school year to prepare for the safe return and reopening of school. Includes many of the non-teaching roles within our school district based upon contractual terms and conditions we're now offering to employees and or the bid process has been completed within the transportation department. Letter B this evening, dominantly under general business. I want to point out the approval of the bus routes that I talked about previously. So all students in grades K through 5 would become eligible for transportation as an exception for the 2020-21 school year based upon current capacity and ridership. And then students in grades 6 through 12 would continue to be 2 miles or more from the school campus to be eligible for transportation services. As always, we're very grateful for the generosity of our community and the donations we receive. We did receive a donation towards the playground completion from our middle school PTO that complemented the previous donations from the primary school and the intermediate school that we've previously board approved. For policy this evening, I talked about 2266 for non-discrimination and Title IX et al. Moving forward based upon the requirements of federal statute, and then the approval of the other board policies in accordance with the discussions we've had to date. Lastly, one general business item that I just want to mention from the addendum agenda is the recommendation this evening to approve the pay to participate fees for the 2020-21 school year, beginning with extracurricular activities of $125 remains the same based upon what we believe to be the ability to still implement those despite probably restrictions associated to COVID-19 and attendance patterns. But for all non-credit bearing extracurricular activities, they would be $125, which is the same dollar amount that existed last year in the school district. Then for athletic participation, specifically in interscholastic sports, rather than having two different fees for middle school, high school, based upon the changes that are occurring specifically for seasons related to schedules at all, we're recommending that all interscholastic sports in grades 7 through 12 be assessed the $225 fee. This is a reduction of $200 for all students in grades 9 through 12 that participate in sports. Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? With none, roll call, please.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff, Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski, President McClelland.
Yes. That brings us to the end of our meeting, so I will request a motion for adjournment. Ms. Kalinowski, and a second?
Second.
By Mr. Darrow. Roll call, please.
Ms. Kalinowski. Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff, President McClelland.
Yes. We are adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st, but there may be a special or an emergency in the meantime. So thank you all for watching.